Hello everyone. Um, in this tutorial, I would like to take the time and show you how we go about creating a two-dimensional arrays and the mechanism that is involved in creating the array, initializing it, and reading the value and printing it on the screen. So the first thing, let's go ahead. We have to create a project. The first thing we have to do is create a project and name it something that whatever name you want to give it. And in this case, we're going to be using console application empty project. Say finish. Next, under resource files, we're going to add a new item, and we're going to go C file. We're going to call it test arrays, and this name could be anything. You can name it whatever you would like to. All right. So the first thing we have to do is we have to go ahead and include our library. In this case, for this code, we are just going to be using the IOStream, which we're going to be retrieving some of its functionality. Like we are going to be using SDT cout, using SDT end of line. So now that we have included our library and retrieve some of its functionality, cout in end of line only, because that's the only thing we need for this demo. Next, I'm going to create my main function, which is important to have so the C++ compiler can read your code and compile it and execute it for you. If you don't have that, it will not work. So you have to make sure you have the main function all the time. Next, as we stated, we're going to create a two-dimensional array with 2 by 2 of type integer in this case. So I'm going to say int, and since I'm going to say my 2 dim 2 by 2, right? Then in this case, I'm going to go ahead and initialize it. So in order to initialize an array, you have to put the equal sign and then open bracket. Then in this case, what I'm saying is that 2 by 2, and I'm trying to populate, I will populate its value. For instance, in this case, I'm going to say 1 and 2, comma, 3 and 4. I will go over this again, and then we're going to see an example so we get an idea how this works, right? Right. So in this case, let's recap. We create a two-dimensional array. The way you can tell is here is 2 by 2, and we initialize it. Always make sure you put the equal sign. A lot of people forget and their code does not work. And then open bracket, and we populate these cells 2 by 2 by 1, 2, 3, and 4. So remember another thing, that your an array, it always starts with 0, your cells. So it's going to be 0, 0, 1, 0, 1 will contain the value of 2, 1, 0 going to contain the value of 3, 1, 1 will contain 0, 4. Even though we say 2 here, actually it's 2 by 2, but it starts over the array actually starts at 0, 1. We'll show you. Let's hang on and take a look at it. When we run the code, you'll see what I'm talking about. Next, we're going to be using a for loop statement to read the content of the array. Okay. Now, the first loop, that's outer loop, we're gonna name it, initialize it. It's gonna be a type int. I'll say outer, O, start at 0, less than 2, plus plus. So in this case, we initialize our variable O. We're going to call it outer loop. So I just name it O, my variable. You can name it anything you want. I initialize it with 0, value of 0. And our condition is the loop should stop when it's less than, when it should run, execute if it's less than 2, but stop if it's greater than 2. And we increment it by 1. That's for outer. So that's going to be for our sort of our column to get the value of a column. Next, we're going to create another loop for the inner, and we're going to initialize it with the same fashion. We're going to call it I 0 less than 2, I plus plus. Okay, open bracket. And then here we're gonna print the results of our array. So we're gonna using cout as we declared using standard output. Then we're gonna try to we're gonna print the value of our column. In this case, that's gonna be 0 O. We're gonna format it so we can put some space here. Then we're gonna do our I, which is inner value, which is our rows. And then we're gonna actually print the content out of our two-dimensional array. So in this case, it's gonna be 2. Actually, the IDE tells you right away. Okay, so you're gonna be O and then I. Then we're gonna end of line. This is again that we declare above, and then we're gonna close. I'm going to put it's always a good idea to put comments so it's easier to read your code. End of inner loop. Then the next one gonna be end of outer, right? Then of course we have to put another bracket for the end of function. All right. All right, let's kind of recap again. So the first thing we have done that's essential, declare your libraries depending on your code design, and with the functionality of those libraries that you need to retrieve. In this case, we did cout and end of line. Your main function, we created a two-dimensional array of type int, and we populated its cells with value of 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we had to create a loop, 2 loops, because the two-dimensional arrays, and one is outer and inner. The outer is basically corresponds to your column, the inner basically to your rows. And here we use the cout to print the result on the screen. So the first thing what it's gonna do is the value of O gonna be 0, and this is gonna be 0, 0, 0 will contain 1. 0 still is gonna be inside this loop. 0, 1 will contain the value of 2. Then it's gonna go to, since it's less than 2, When it reaches 2, it goes to the outer loop and then take the next value. You're going to start 1. And then so on and so forth. So I think the best way to do this, to see that, is to run the code so you can see what will happen. So let's do Alt F5. Okay, so we have as you can see, it went very fast. So we need to put another command here. We're gonna put system pause, and then let's try it again. All right, so now it's better. We have a better result here. So let's see. So as you can see, 0, 0 contains 1, 0, 1 contains 2, 0, 1, 0, 3, 1, 1, 4. 0, 0, 0, 0 is cell, the location of the cell, and these are the content of what we have populated, initialized with. And so basically, this is kind of a high-level demonstration of how you can create a two-dimensional array and how you can use a method to display the result and how you can initialize it. So that's going to give you a high-level, demonstration. So then you can go ahead and create your own array and play with that. So I hope you found this tutorial kind of helpful to kind of iron out the concept for you. Thank you.